guys, and welcome back to another tutorial of Unreal Engine 4. In today's tutorial, I'm going to teach you how to open and close a door using blueprints. So first of all, open up your previous project that you were working on. In my case, it will be this. Once it's open up, go to File, Recent Level, Room, and now it's open up. Right now, we cannot open or close this door. So we cannot open it or close it. There's multiple ways to do it. I'm going to use blueprints to do it. First of all, create a new folder called blueprint and store all your blueprints here. Right click here and create a blueprint class. Select actor and name it door underscore BP for blueprint. Open it up, and here you will have this viewport where you can view the static meshes or objects that you place inside the blueprint. Click on add component, search for static mesh. Let's name this door and add another component, static mesh, and let's name this sides. And okay, so in this one, door, search for door and place it here, and for sides, search for door and add the door frame. Now we have a door as well as door frame. What we need to do now is create a new scene component, scene, and make the door a child component of the scene. Now before you make it a child component, what you want to do is make it so that the scene component is right in the middle and left or right hand corner of your door. This will act as a rotating point for the door. Right now the rotating point for the door is this area here. Since we want the door to open from the hinges, from its sides, we have to make sure that we make this door a child actor of the scene. This will cause the scene to move, which will automatically move the door as well. To see this in action, okay. So basically it's the scene component will move the door around the axis that we want the door to open in. Let's reset it and test what would happen if we didn't connect the door to the scene component. If we would rotate it, it would rotate from the middle, which we do not want. So the scene component will act as a hinge for the door. Now the scene component upon rotation will move the door as if it was a hinge. Now let's go to making the actual door. Go to the event tab. Now we want to trigger the door to open. There are many ways to do it. One of the easiest way is to add a collision box. Let's search for box collision, and detach it from scene and make it bigger like this, taller as well, and a bit wider. So now when the player is inside this box collision, it will trigger. Go to the event graph and press this box, scroll down and click on this plus button on component begin overlap. Now when this component begins getting overlapped by the player, it will trigger our event. So now what we want to do is cast to our player, and to cast to our player, all we have to do is check what our player is called. So since we're using the first person template, I'm just going to cast to first person character. If you're using the third person character, then you're going to have to cast to third person character. In my case, cast to first person character as other actor. So in this case, what this does is once the first person character, i.e. the player, starts to overlap this box here, it will cast to the player to perform a specific event. So what in our case, what we want to do is we want it to open the door. In order to open the door, we are going to have to rotate the door. To rotate the door, first we add a timeline, add timeline, and set its name to open door, and open this timeline and add a float track. Name it door open amount, and right click, add key to curve float 0 and time 0 value 0. So now zoom out a bit and right click, add key to curve float and set it 1 and 90, since we want it to rotate 90 degrees. Now press this to fit horizontally and fit vertically. Right click here and set it to auto, so we have a nice curved line. This will make sure that the door opens smoothly and not instantly. Now once the player begins overlapping the collision box, it's going to play this timeline and let us update the door's position. Drag this out here and make rotator to make the door rotate. Since we want the door to rotate along the z-axis, using this, as you can see, it's moving around the z-axis, which is exactly what we want it to do. Since a door opens from its hinges, we can go to this event graph and press Control and then click on this reroute node and link it to Z. Take the return value and set position, set actor rotation, and plug in the update here. And for the target, we're just going to use our scene component. It's not compatible with this, so let's check context sensitive. Set rotation, set relative rotation for scene. This is what you're going to do. Let's just delete this and re-plug in to here. Delete this. Okay, so now what's going to happen is the scene is going to rotate the door and open it up. This door open amount will update the float. So basically what happens is the door first returns a value of 0, and as time goes by, over the span of 1 second, it's going to increase to 90, and this will cause the Z value to get increased to 90 as well. And then since X is 0, Y is 0, they will stay as it is, and the Z value of this scene component will get set to 90, which will cause it to open like this. However, it will not happen instantly. It will happen over the span of 1 second, which we defined right here. If we set it to 10 seconds, the door will open very slowly over the time span of 10 seconds. 1 is good enough. It compile. To make things easier, just click this place, save on compile on success only, and then whenever you hit compile, it will also automatically get saved if the compile succeed. Otherwise, if you do not save on compile, then you'll have to manually save your blueprint. So I recommend turning the save on compile on success only option to on. And now place this blueprint in place of this door. Place it right here. Wait, let me just make the subtractive brush a bit larger. So now let's try whether or not this works. I begin overlapping, it closes. I stop overlapping, it doesn't do anything. Open, close, open, and close. So this is the general functionality of this blueprint. If you want to create a more realistic door that only triggers when the user presses E, then what you're going to have to do is event graph, move all of this code below, and just right click, create custom, add custom event, and door open, hit enter, and just plug it in here. Create a new variable inside box, inside the collision box, and set inside collision box, and just tick it to this basically tells the engine that the player is inside the box. So when the player gets inside this box, it will set the variable inside box to true, and once the user stops overlapping it, it will set it to false. For this functionality, I'm going to do on component and overlap plus, and once the player stops overlapping, just copy this, paste it here as the other object, and set it to false. Now hit compile. So now what you're going to want to do is click on blueprints and select open level blueprint. Now search for E. So whenever the user presses E, well, let's do O since it appears faster. O. So whenever the user presses O, this event will trigger. And now you can also set it to E from here. Gamepad E. Yeah. Now whenever the user presses E, it's going to call upon get all actors of class and BP. Door BP. Okay, door BP. What will happen is it will call each and every door blueprint inside your level, and for each loop, and for each of the door actor inside the door blueprint inside your level, it will trigger this event: open door, or door open, and the target will be the array element. So basically, when the user presses E, it gets all the door blueprints, cast to them, and for each of the door, it triggers the door open event. Now this will cause each and every door to open. Since we do not want that, we're just going to add a branch. This is a conditional statement. If inside box, get inside box. If the player is inside the collision area, then it will trigger this event. Otherwise, it will not trigger the event. So it will only trigger the event for the door in which the player is inside the collision. Hit compile, and now hit play. As you can see, it's not opening yet. And when I press E, it's going to open. It's going to close, open, close, open, close. This open close is done by the flip-flop. What the flip-flop does is it first executes the A statement, and once this has been executed, the next time this statement is called, it's going to execute the second B statement. So first it's going to open the door 90 degrees, and then it's going to reverse it. So it's basically going to reverse the door opening. So it will look as if it's closing. And this is it for the door. Now you have a fully functioning door. However, the one thing that is really annoying is this, that you have to, the door only opens one way. This can block the player from opening the door. And in order to fix it, what you can do is make it open both ways. Right now this works beautifully. However, if you want it to be able to open it both ways, then this can get a bit lengthy. So you have to make two collision boxes. One here, Control C, Control V, move it here. So we basically have two collision events. Go to construction script. You can delete these. Make it go all the way up. Now do the same for this. On component begin overlap. Create a new variable inside box 1. Cast to first person character. Other actor set inside box 1 to true. And now once the player stops overlapping this box, cast to third person character as the other actor, and set inside box 1 to false. Okay, so now it's going to call upon different events. Now we can set up a branch statement. If inside box is true, then that means the player is inside the first box. So this is box and this is box 1. If the player is inside this box, we want the door to open that way. We want the door to open on the right side. So to check how much we'll have to open it, let's just set it to 90. It's opening the wrong way, so we do not want that. What we want to do is open it negative 90 degrees. So go to the event graph and change this open door template from this, select this and select the value from 90 to negative 90 and scale it to fit on the screen. Hit compile, go to event graph. Now what will happen is it will open up outside like this. Close, open, close, open. Now we need to set it up so that it opens in accordance with where the player is standing. So if the player is inside box, then it's just going to open up right side. And if he's not inside box, we're going to check if the player is inside box 1. Get box 1. If the player is not inside box and he's not inside box 1, none of the statements are going to get executed. If he's inside box, then this statement is going to get executed. However, if he's not inside box, then it's going to go to false and this statement is going to get executed. And if it's true, then we can hit flip-flop and make a new timeline. Door open door 1. And for the flip-flop reverse, let's move it down lower. And you can copy this, paste, direction in the Z. Excuse me, what the fuck? Float is not compatible with V timeline direction enum. And door 1. Oh, okay, we didn't create a float track, that's why. So once you create the timeline, double click to open it, add float track, door open amount 1. Add a value here, add key time 0 value 0, add key time 1 value 90. Fit it horizontally and vertically, select this, right click, auto, and hit compile. Event graph, go to event graph, and Now you can set door open amount and plug it into Z. Plug it in, plug this here, and now it's going to open up. Hit compile, compile, and now just make it, I'm going to test it up. Hit play, it opens. Wait, I have no floor over there. I'm just going to quickly create a floor. Geometry, box, duplicate the properties by pressing this, right click, copy, right click, scale, paste, and now it's going to be as big as that room. And let's just make it hollow as well. Hollow, and set it to true. Now the player can go inside this. Like I said in the previous video, you have to copy and paste the subtractive. So sub door subtractive, copy and paste to make a newer version so that the other area also gets subtracted. Add a light inside here. Okay. Set it to movable so you do not have to build lightning. And okay, hit save. Now if we test it out, E to open. Look. Now for some reason it's acting up strange, and we can see the reason why here. Now go to the event graph, and when you press E, it opens up. And when we go here and press E, it opens up from this, its rest. We do not want that. So in order to fix this, what we are going to do is, first let's maximize it. Okay, in order to fix this, what we have to do is know if the door has been opened or not. So let's move this out of the way, make room for our new variables, create two new variables called opened one for the first box and opened for the normal 0 box. Now before we allow it to open the door, we have to check whether the door was previously opened or not. Open one, get open one, set it here. Same thing here. Before we open the door, add a branch in between these two, and instead of opened one, we get opened 0. If it's true, then we want to set opened 1 to false and then execute this statement. And if this one is true, set opened and execute this from reverse. And if this is false, then execute this. If it's false, execute this. But before we execute, when we execute this, we want to set opened 1. Just follow with me. I'm going to explain it after I've done this blueprint. Reverse. And do the same here. Only this time for opened. Set opened from here. Copy paste. B play reverse. Set opened here. If this is false, then do a flip flop. Opened 1. Set this to true, set this to false, set this to true. So that was the mistake, I guess. Yeah, hit compile. And now let's try it out. Press E. E closes. E open. E close. E open. E close. E open. Close. Open. Close. Open. Close. Open. Close. So as you can see, it works now flawlessly. So let me just explain what's actually happening here. So first, your level blueprint, upon pressing E, gets all actors of the class door blueprint. And for each of these actors, it calls the door open event, which is essentially this. Now this door open event checks if the player is inside the box. Now, it's by default, inside the box is set to false. But whenever the player begins overlapping this box, it sets the inside box to true. And whenever the player stops overlapping this box, it sets inside the box to false. The same is the case for box 1. When the player is inside the box, the inside box 1 gets set to true. Whenever the player stops overlapping the collision box, it sets inside the box 1 to false. When this custom event is called, it checks whether or not the player is inside the box. If the player is on this side, then it says yes, the player is inside, you can let him open the door, then it goes to true. If the player is not inside this box, then this it goes to the false, and the false statement gets executed. Now, of course, if it's false, that means he must be in this one. This one says, if this one says, yeah, the player is inside me, then the true statement gets executed. If the player is not inside this box, this goes to false. And since there's nothing that is connected here, nothing happens. So after the true executement executes, we go to the check if the door has previously been opened or not. So basically, in case of false, it goes to the flip-flop statement and sets the opened to true for the first run. This causes it to play this animation. So to show you guys, let's see it play. Once the player begins overlapping, when the player presses E, it executes this statement. And if I press E again in the game, what will happen is it will set opened to false. E again, open to true, false, true, false. Now, if I stop overlapping the collision box, the statement will get set to false. Right now I'm overlapping, so this is true. Inside box is true. I stop overlapping, and as you can see, this just got triggered. Inside, outside. Now, once I visit the other side, this statement just got executed, which means I'm on the other side of the door. So now, this inside box will say that the player is not inside me. It will go to false and execute this statement. And since the player is inside box 1, it will say yes, he's inside me, so it will execute true. As we have already opened the door from here by pressing E, this will go to open will be set to true. Its current value, as you can see, is true, which will cause it to execute this statement, and we will set the open to false, and it will go here and it will reverse the door. So at current it is rotated 90 degrees, meaning it's open, and if I press E again, as you can see, it just reversed, and now opened has been set to false, whereas inside box 1 is still true. So what will happen now when I press E is this event will get called, this will go to false, and it will go, since this is true, we are inside this box, it will go to true, and the opened, since we set it to false here, it will go to false, meaning this time it will open the door negative 90 degrees, meaning on the opposite side, or the side that we are facing, and it will set opened 1 to true. So flip flop, flip flop. One thing that you need to make sure, let's just complete this demo. Now once you open this door, opened 1 is set to true. Now, as we can see from this statement, branch statement, opened 1 has a condition that is set to true right now because we just opened this door. So it's going to execute opened 1 and set it to 0, not false. So it's going to execute the true statement and cause the opened 1 to get set to false. And it's just going to go to this statement, branch statement, and it's going to execute this false, and it will go and execute opened to this. Now if you go on the other side, you can see it in action. Let's see. Opened, closed, opened, closed, open, and close. The reason why it takes so long to open and close sometimes is because I did not set the length of this to be 1, meaning it will continue to play for 5 seconds. Now I have set it to 1 and 1. Now it will happen instantaneously. E, 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 E. So yeah, it's happening in a second. E, and hit E, E. So yeah, it works. So yeah, this is how you create a two-way door open and close blueprint. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and tomorrow I'll be showing you how to do this post-process of effect, like this volumetric light, as well as these sprite, how to add them inside your project, and as well as some other things that I can cover. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.